This meeting is being recorded.
Feel free to mute your microphones, please, so we don't have any reverb, which I think I'm hearing already. Okay, so good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are today. Welcome to the American Orthotic and Prosthetic Association's 2026 Policy Forum pre-session webinar, Lobbying 101, How to Prepare for Your AOPA Policy Forum. I'm Terry Cuffell, AOPA's Executive Director, and I'm here with Joe McTurnan, AOPA's Director of Policy and Regulatory Affairs. I want to start by saying Happy Limb Loss and Limb Difference Awareness Month. I can't think of a better way to celebrate this month than by bringing us all together to bring awareness of the limb loss and limb difference community to our nation's capital. Thank you all for your commitment to do so. Today, Joe and I will be spending the next hour helping prepare all of us for our policy forum next week. This session is designed to be a prep course and a reveal or a review for our seasoned advocates of the top 10 things you can do to get ready for our visits next week. We will be recording this session, and the recording will be sent tomorrow along with some other helpful information for next week. With that, let's have Joe rattle off the top 10 things to remember, followed by a deep dive by Joe and me of those top 10 things. We're going to mention a few things not to do, and finally, a quick introduction to our new Policy Forum app that we will all use to help us with our legislative visits this year. Joe?
Great. Thanks, Terry. It's really great to see everybody. We're really looking forward to seeing everyone next week in person. I'm going to take you through the top 10 steps to be effective, and then we're going to take a deeper dive into those with Terry and I taking alternating back and forth, talking about some tips and some pointers. So first is to be prepared. Second is to do your homework. Third is to always select a spokesperson to be your speaker and to be your main voice. Fourth, be brief and stay focused on the issues. 5, make it personal. Personalize your issues. 6, be positive and react honestly. 7, be friendly with legislative staff. 8, close the deal. Make sure you ask. And then 9, make sure you leave behind materials for their reference. And then 10, and almost most importantly, is to say and write a thank you message to your legislators. Terry?
Thanks, Joe. So number 1, be prepared. That's why you're all here, and we thank you for being here. And for those of you who haven't muted your microphones, please do so we don't have any of that reverb. So dressing for success, really important. You will see many people in full-out suits on the Hill for your visit. It's business attire. But most importantly, be comfortable. Dress for success, but be comfortable. And most importantly, wear comfortable shoes. Make sure that your shoes are such that you can, they will accommodate a full day, because you might have a full day of visits walking back and forth up and across different terrain and into offices. Know where you're going. We're going to talk at the end of the session about the new Policy Forum app that we have, and that will help guide us all. It will have maps and office locations and individuals that we will be meeting with, names, locations, and maps. Be prompt. It's really wise to make sure you arrive at the office 5 to 10 minutes early, and you arrive to the building potentially 15 minutes early, because we will all be going through security checks. Whatever bags you are carrying, try to limit the amount of bags. And of course, just like at the airport security, we will be walking through the security checks and the monitors. Really important to call and email the day before to confirm with the office of the legislator. Now that we're utilizing the apps, some of that is incorporated within. Joe?
All right. So the second tip is to do your homework. You don't ever want to walk into an office and not be prepared to answer any questions that they may have for you. So make sure that you're educated. This year, we're going to have three asks that are going to be our main asks in our visits to the Hill. We're going to be supporting the Medicare O&P Patient Centered Care Act. We're going to be asking for support for the funding of the limb loss resource center, and we're going to be asking for support in reestablishing the OPORP funding through the CDMRP program. So make sure with the information you get before your visits, you are educated yourself so that you can verbally express what our asks are. You want to make sure that you do attend your meetings. You don't want to leave your colleagues hanging and out there waiting for you to show up for a meeting and you for whatever reason you don't make it. If you are running late or you're not going to make it, let your colleagues know. Review your materials. It'll all be on the app, like Terry mentioned. Make sure that you familiarize yourself with what you're leaving behind. Remember that you are the expert in the room. There is nobody on the other side of any table that you're going to be in that understands these issues more than you do because you're intimately involved in it every single day. Be confident, but don't just make things up. That is an easy tell. If you're just kind of shooting from the cuff and making things up as you go, you will lose your legislators and you will lose your staffers pretty quickly. And then finally, try not to use too many O&P acronyms. So things like AFOs and KAFOs. Most staffers and most legislators don't know what those are inherently, while you do because you're involved in that every single day. Speak it out. Make sure they understand what exactly you're talking about. So just try not to get too lost in the vernacular that we use every day in our universe. Terry?
Thanks, Joe. Number 3, select your spokesperson or persons. Uh, it You will likely be entering these legislative visits not alone, but with at least one or two or three or four other people. So if you do meet as a group, go for what we call the trifecta. The trifecta is having a patient, a practitioner, and a policy person, business person, or student with you. Now, we do coin the phrase patient because our bill is called the Orthotic and Prosthetic Patient Centered Care Act. It's okay to use the word patient in these meetings. You know, the Amputee Coalition uses the word community member, and we are very respectful of that. And please feel free to interchange when you deem appropriate. Decide ahead of time who will take the lead and speak to each of the issues. Joe mentioned that we have 3 specific asks this year, and those asks are very different in and among themselves. We're going to do a deep dive into those asks next week when you are with us for the programming in the afternoon. So you will become familiar with the bill and the appropriations asks that for the Limb Loss Resource Center and also the research asks that we have. That will be next week. But you can spend some time deciding who's going to take the lead to speak on which issue. Patients can help educate and personalize the orthotic and prosthetic issues that we are bringing to our legislators. Practitioners can help explain how access to care and devices can be challenging without evidence. They can also speak to the specific day-to-day care that they deliver. Policy people, business people, students, all are advocates and can advocate for increased funding to support improved care and for fair and reasonable coverage policies. Joe?
Right. Be brief and stay focused. So you are in some cases you are only going to get 15 to 20 minutes with each office that you're going to. Their schedules are jam-packed all day long, and we will almost certainly not be the only group that has a fly-in scheduled for April 14th. So make sure you go in there knowing what you want to say. Make sure you're prepared to be brief. Start with your outline and stick to it. If you're mostly going to be meeting with legislators from your home districts or your home states, if it's the Senate side, start with an icebreaker. make it personal. Make it something that, if you walk in and you see a football helmet of one of the universities in the state and you happen to go there or you have a child that went there, bring that up. Talk about it. Talk about the stadium. Talk about football games. Talk about your experiences. Make sure they understand that you have a connection to that office. Um, Really important to know what side of the aisle your legislator sits on. Doesn't matter if you agree with them, if you don't agree with them, your personal politics are not a part of the equation during the fly-in. But it is important to know what issues they're going to want to be interested in. And you can do that by knowing if they're Republican or if they are a Democratic lawmaker. You want to know if they are a past author of the bill. If they are familiar with the bill, you can kind of pull back a little bit and talk a little bit more ethereal about it. And you're not educating so much. You're really kind of talking to them as somebody that's in the know. Know if they're on a committee that's important to O&P. So our committees of jurisdiction are the House Energy and Finance Committee, and the House Ways and Means Committee, and then the Senate Finance Committee. Those are the three committees that hold jurisdiction over the Medicare O&P Patient-Centered Care Act. It's important to know if you have legislators that, if you're meeting with legislators that have roles on any of those committees. If you get an opportunity to look into their voting records, know how they voted in previous healthcare bills. It'll give you kind of a crystal ball into their thinking, and what their focus is and what their issues are that are important to them. Okay, Terry?
Thanks, Joe. Number 5 is personalize your issues. Tell your story, whether you are a patient, a practitioner, a student, a business owner, a manufacturer. Tell a story, your story about how you fit into this equation. Our stories are incredibly powerful and impactful, and our legislators need to hear them. We need to personalize these issues. So they're just not words on a page. We need to reach our legislators. So talk about whatever your relation is to O&P and the limb loss and limb difference community. You can talk about yourself and your journey. You may have a family member, a friend, or a patient who you could share a story about. Talk about how O&P care positively impacts our patients and our lives. It's really great to talk about success stories. And it's okay to talk about some of our stories that are not successful, but we want to make sure that we're leaving a positive story with our legislators and that we're telling them that our stories are impactful and we need their help. Talk about how what you are asking for will improve the lives of the constituents that they are serving, that the lawmakers or the policymakers are serving. The constituents are the ones that our policy people, they are working for. Our legislators are working for us. So really important to personalize these issues so they're not just words on a page. Joe?
All right. So number 6 is to be positive and react honestly. We have a great story to tell, and it's an easy one to tell successfully. So we want to use that to our advantage. You want to tell the story of O&P, and make it a feel-good, warm moment for them. Talk about opportunities that they have to change people's lives and to support the work that you do that changes people's lives. One of the things that I tell quite often in legislative offices when I go in is, it's really, really comforting and encouraging to work for a profession where people often come into a practice in a wheelchair and walk out. It's just a really, really positive, good story to tell about how positively you impact the lives of your patients, and it's really easy to transmit that on these visits. You can be okay to address some negative aspects. Fraud and abuse is unfortunately something that exists in our universe. but it's not us that's doing the majority of it. So turn it into a positive sandwich. So you want to sandwich anything that's negative with positivity on both sides. So try and pull that in and work that together so that yes, you acknowledge some negativity, but also then bring it back to positivity in the end. Um, be very honest in your delivery and with your responses. If you don't know the specific answer to a question, it's okay to say, you know what, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll find out for you and I'll follow back up. You don't want to be seen as being dishonest or just trying to give them what they expect you to say. You can be honest, and it's okay to say, I don't know. Okay, that's my next point. It's okay to say I don't know. Sorry about that. I'm making my own point before I even get to it. And many of you are going to be lined up with visits to see your actual representatives in Congress. That is a great opportunity. That is a connection that you will have with them, and they are your representative in Washington, D.C., and your vote is very, very important to them. So make sure they understand, that you are there to see them, and that they can help you today when you're there, and you can then help them in the future, potentially as a voter. Terry?
Thanks, Joe. Number 7, be friendly with your legislative staff. The app that we will share later today will help you track with whom you are meeting, whether it's the legislator, him or herself, or a staff member. It could be the chief of staff of for the legislator. It could be a healthcare policy person. It could be a new associate that's coming in and may or may not be filling in. You may be meeting in the legislator's office. You may be meeting off to the side if they have a conference room. You may be meeting in the hallway. Be prepared for any and all of that. The assigned staff that is usually assigned to these meetings usually have a healthcare focus. So they are usually familiar with healthcare generally. It is not very common to walk into a room and have these individuals know much, if anything, about orthotics and prosthetics. One of the first questions we usually ask is, do you know what orthotics and prosthetics are? Body bracing and artificial limbs. Let's just give you a brief education about who we are and what we do. Establish a relationship with the staff member. Critically important that you do so. You are going to be asked to write thank you letters after. And then it's nice to take every and any opportunity you have for a touch point with that person after you have made the visit. In the past, Minnesota has had several legislators serve a length of time of 10 to 15 years. It's been easy for us to establish relationships with those individuals. Chiefs of staff have remained, but some do move on. You may be in an office where next year it's going to be a completely different person, and that's okay too, because as long as you maintain a relationship with them, they will transfer you over to the individual that did take his or her place. But establishing relationships with staff is critical. And do not underestimate the staffers. Some of you will be amazed to see how young these individuals are who are working at our nation's capital. Some are interning, some are new healthcare professionals, some are legislative assistants that it's a first or a second year job for them. And they have the beeline access to our legislators. So do not underestimate their value in this equation. Make sure you phone and email them to maintain your connection, and call, email, visit again and again. That's the way we create the network and we develop the consistency that we need from year to year to work the bills that we have. Joe, back to you.
Yeah, and if I could add just a little bit of color before we go on to the next slide, just to reiterate how important it is to build those relationships. Terry and I visited with one of the Minnesota offices a few weeks ago, and we met with the healthcare staffer in that office who we had talked to before, and he let us know that he was actually on his way out to move to a different legislator's office. But he would send a bill up the chain, and so we used that relationship to create a new relationship within that office. And then we were back on the Hill just last week at a legislator's office from the state of Georgia. And we walked in with an appointment for one staffer, and sure enough, who walks out to meet with us? But the same gentleman that we had just met with from the Minnesota office a few weeks earlier, who had now moved into this Georgia office, and just happened to be the new healthcare person. And so we walked in, we said, "Well, we don't need to tell you about the bill again." And he said, "Oh, yeah, I remember everything about it. It's really good to see." And so just as big a town as Washington is, it's tiny. And so the staffers do move from office to office, and if you establish those relationships, they will continue to know you and to pay dividends as they move from one office to another. So just wanted to share that as a recent example of the value of those relationships. All right, so it was I don't know if it was Wall Street with the ABCs. I don't know if I'm quoting the right movie here, but it's ABC. Always be closing, right? So you want to make sure that you close the deal. You want to remember what your ask is and make sure you express what the ask is, why you're visiting that office, and what you want them to do after you leave. So you want to ask them to support the issues you are discussing. In this case, it's our three talking points, our three issues that we're going to be talking about next Monday. You want them to ask them to either write a letter of support or sign on to a letter of support or to sign on as a co-sponsor if it's a bill. Ask them for their support on any O&P related issues. So even if it's not something that's part of the main ask of your visit, just kind of put the thought in their ear that if they do see things that come across that are orthotic and prosthetic related, we would love to have their support on those issues. Ask them to come visit you when they are back in town. Every politician in the world loves a good opportunity for PR. What better opportunity than to come to a facility and have them in your facility or your school with cameras and talking about what you're doing and showing them how you care for patients and beneficiaries. And finally, ask them to work with their colleagues to generate support for orthotics and prosthetics. This is going to be especially important when we're talking about the Limb Loss Resource Center and the and research funding, because those are usually done through the appropriations process, which is a very specific, guided, focused thing. And a lot of the officers you're talking to aren't going to be directly involved in that, but you can ask them to ask their colleagues that are to support these issues. So, Terry?
Yeah, before we advance that slide, Joe, there's another ask. One that well, we all intend and sometimes forget to do. Ask for a photo. Ask for a photo with the individual that you are meeting with. If it's your legislator, they'll probably have a professional photographer hiding behind the door ready to take some pictures. And if not, ask for a picture and use your own phone so you actually have the picture on your phone. And a lot of times those pictures will be taken outside by their entryway and their named placard. Okay, Joe, next. Let's see. We've got leave behind materials. You will have a folder filled with information that we will supply for you when you come next week. We will talk about each individual ask in the folder when we meet during our program session on Monday from 1 to 5. You will have the leave behind folder will have sheets of information on each of the three asks that we have. You can, during your meeting, discuss the fact with the individual that you're meeting with that you have this leave behind folder, so you can focus on the meeting, the actual discussion and the content of each of the asks while you're in the meeting. Some of them will want to open it up and pull out and jot notes on the leave behind materials, and that's okay. You also can reference specific information during the discussion. If you need a cheat sheet, use the cheat sheet. If you forget which bill number, House or Senate, that's okay. Look down at your materials. Use the materials so that the flow of your conversation goes as appropriately as it can. Now, we had talked earlier about sharing the dissemination of the content with those you have in your group. So you should have an opportunity to all walk in and introduce yourselves. And if you've got a plan ahead of time, each person in your group will have a topic to discuss. And then that person can also reference the fact that the content is in the leave behind materials. Be sure to have your card or your contact information with you so you can hand over to them. Yes, business cards will work here. There's usually business cards at the front desk, and they are usually handing them out to you. So if you have some with you, please feel free to bring them and use them. You also can write your name and your phone number down, your email address on the top of a leave behind material if you don't have a business card with you. But make sure you provide your contact information so they can contact you with questions after the meeting. Joe?
And like I said earlier, this is maybe the most important one, and it's the final in the top 10. Say thank you to them before you leave, and then follow up with a thank you message, whether it be a letter, whether it be email. You want to have a written communication chain that thanks them for taking time out of their day to see you and to speak to you about the issues. Courtesy goes a tremendous, tremendous way on Capitol Hill. So always remember to say please and to say thank you and write that letter after the visit is finished. Usually if you can do it within 24 hours, and we do them via email. Most people do it via email these days, and that's fine. And you'll get the cards of the people that you meet with usually during the visit so that you'll have their contact information.
Yeah, and I'll
But
just add,
emails, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry.
Emails are appropriate. I just can't stress enough saying thank you and how common courtesies go a long way. We talked about it a little bit in the beginning of our session as well. Some of our issues are hard, and we aren't happy with the way things are going with our reimbursements, with our policy structures, with some of the rules and regulations. But that's to walk in and to harp on only the negatives doesn't get us very far. We have learned, trust us. Sandwiching some of the negatives within the positives really is truly the way to hook this fish and bring in the line. So please remember, your common courtesies go a long way. Don't hesitate to talk about some of the hard issues, but remember to say please and thank you. And critical to keep the line of communication open after your visit. Joe?
Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about some do's and don'ts, some things to avoid when you're doing these visits next week. So Terry, if you want to take one or more.
Sure. So avoid overly technical industry jargon without explaining. So if we're talking about sockets, pylons, stance control, ankle foot orthosis, microprocessor knees, etc., the individuals you're speaking with will likely get lost in our technical industry jargon. So just remember, like Joe had mentioned before, you are the expert in the room, and take a minute to step back and do a little bit more explaining the content around what it is, the technical jargon that you're using. And avoiding acronyms is critical. We all know what MPKs are, KFOs, AFOs, AKBKs are, but they probably don't, and they will get lost. Walking in, just starting a meeting with, do you know what an orthotic and prosthetic device is? Most of them will say, I think not quite sure. So just at that very base level, try to avoid technical industry jargon without more thoroughly explaining it. Joe?
Yeah, and then this is especially relevant to our third ask, our third priority during these sessions. If you are a researcher and you are going into offices as the expert in the room to talk about research funding, um, keep it at a very, very high level. You don't want to get into the weeds with the actual meat of the research project that may be very personal and may be very dear to your heart and may be very important to you. But the ask is to fund O&P research in general. You don't want to get way down into the weeds and simply lose your audience. Chances are that you're doing things that are meaningful, but on the surface to the legislators may not carry that same weight. They want to know what the research is geared to do, how it's going to improve patients' lives, and you want to keep it at that very, very high level so that you don't lose your audience and you don't see that those eyes glass over, and then you're talking to yourself. So it's challenging, I know, because this is so important to some of us, and it's so part of your everyday life. But it's important to just keep that in mind when you're talking about your research and the things that you're doing every day to keep it really at that high, high level. Okay, Terry, you want to talk about approaches?
Yeah, and I'll just add that these visits are fast. They're 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops. We don't usually even get 30 minutes. So it really is a delicate dance of coming in with specific asks. Some people say it's better to have only one ask. Well, this year we have three asks, and we have time. We have time to talk about each one of them, and we have time to drive the message home that we are all here to educate and advocate on behalf of our community, some of whom cannot be with us today or next week, but that need our help. These issues are dire to their everyday. So balancing the content of the ask with the time that you have and staying positive. It's a skill that we need to practice, some of us more than others, but we all get it, and we will all do this together. The approach, focused efforts deliver best results, which is the main point that Joe and I are trying to get across. Your visit should have a primary issue or two or three that drives the conversation, and we can share multiple issues. Remember to start and end with those specific asks. Joe?
Yeah, and remember that you are the expert in the room. It's a delicate balance between being confident and being arrogant, but we all know how to do it, and it can mean the difference between a really successful meeting and a not so successful meeting. So speak with confidence, be confident in your expertise, but don't come off as aloof or talking down to the staffers. Remember that some of these staffers are literally going to be 21, 22 years old. They are going to be younger than at least my children, some of your children. Um, that doesn't mean that they're not professionals and then that they're not in the know and skilled at what they do. So it's just important to remember that even if they look young, doesn't mean that they're inexperienced or that they're not important and then that they not know what they're doing and that they have a direct line to their bosses and their legislators. Um, they are almost always looking for you to educate them. So take advantage of that. Be educators. Make sure we're getting our messages across. And remember to ask if they have questions. They may not voluntarily say to you, "Hey, I have a question," but throughout the discussion, say, "Hey, is there anything that you need further clarification on this issue? Can we give you more?" So remember to ask if they have questions throughout, not just at the end. Okay.
Yeah, and advocacy work in general, some of you may just be starting your advocacy journeys. And it truly is, having done this for 15 to 20 years now, it is a practice of patience, persistence, and perseverance. And just know that we've got bills that we've been working on for years, a couple of different editions of content that has been on the books for us that we've been working for 10, 12 years now. Things don't happen quickly in Washington, D.C. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't still be hitting the hill and sharing our message, educating policymakers, educating the legislators and their staffers of these matters that are of most importance to us, our community, and the individuals that we serve. Okay, I think we're ready for the app now, Joe.
All right. So I'm introducing something that we're really excited about this year. This is a completely new feature for those of you that have been to the policy forum before. You are used to getting two folders, or two sets of folders. You get your leave behind folders, and then you get a folder that has a bunch of paper in it that says for your eyes only, and it's got a giant spreadsheet of your schedule with your legislators and everything else. This year we're doing something a little different. We are putting all of that into an app, working with a consultant company called Advocacy Associates. They have helped us streamline our scheduling. They have helped us streamline our reference materials for use during the meetings. Everybody will get an email tomorrow. Everybody that's registered for the policy forum will receive an email from Advocacy Associates, so please look for it, with instructions on how to download the app, how to create a username and password, so that when you come into town on Monday, you are fully ready to go and you are fully set up within the app to do so. So on this page is just a sample of what that email is going to look like. If you don't have it by tomorrow evening, first thing to do is check in your spam or junk folders to make sure that it didn't get filtered out. And then if you still don't have it, then you can contact the AOPA staff and we'll make sure we figure out what's going on. But everybody should get it by tomorrow, certainly by tomorrow evening. Um, this is what you're going to see in the app. You're going to have the policy forum agenda. You will have your own personalized schedule that is unique to you that will tell you who you're meeting with, what time, where the meeting is, whether it's in person or virtual. In this case, almost all of the meetings will be in person. And then whether you'll be meeting with staff or whatnot, and then you'll have some background information on the legislators that you'll be meeting with. So, really, really good information. It will have their general bio. It will list any of the committees that they are serving on, and then whether or not they are a listed co-sponsor of the Medicare O&P Patient-Centered Care Act. Finally, as the last thing it will have, or not the last thing, but the other thing that it will have is it will have everything that used to be in your For Your Eyes Only folder will now be on the app. So your background material, your talking points, copies of all of the bill text, the one pagers, etc. If by chance there is a change to your schedule, you will get real-time updates in the app about schedule changes. And then, like we said earlier, it's so important to send your thank you emails. The app takes care of it for you. It's already populated. All you have to do is just fill it out. And it's the text is already pre-populated in the app, and it will generate those thank you emails for you so that you can send those right back to your legislative staff within that 24-hour window. So we've all been playing with it for the last several months. We're super excited about the app, and we really think it's gonna really make everybody's experience at the policy forum that much better this year. Okay, so what I'd like to do now, here's Terry and I's email. Feel free to send questions to us via email, but I'm going to leave this up for a second, and then I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share so that we can have everybody back on the screen and we can do some open Q&A. This is set up as a meeting, not a webinar. So we will have to ask people to unmute their own lines and be respectful to each other and try not to talk over each other with questions. I don't know if we're gonna have a million or we're gonna have none, but let's give it a shot. So I'm gonna stop my screen share here.
Yeah, Joe, we did a good job. Joe and I tend to go off on multiple tangents with all the stories that we could share about each one of those top tens, but we did a good job containing them and just getting the basic message out for you all. So we would have time for question and answer. So we've got a good 40 minutes, or excuse me, 20 minutes. We're at 1:40. So please, if you have a question, and it's fine. It's probably best if we call in order, or if there's a chat screen too that we can use. However this is going to go, I guess we'll just get started.
So I have a question. I'll jump in. My name is Jeff Rich. I'm the president of the Podorthic Folk Care Association. So, um, so how many? So, as we know, there's a lot of limb loss, and a lot of this can be prevented by seeing a qualified foot professional that specializes in feet. Especially, it starts with the big toe, the midfoot, and so on. So. The thing is, we don't get any extra money to see patients. And as you know, a lot of these patients have sugar brain and they don't check their feet. So what I would like to do somehow is be able to get these patients to come in to see us at our office once a month, so to make sure they don't have an open ulcer or anything of that nature. So how do we approach this, A? And then how do we get residual pay for seeing these patients? That's it.
So
Joe?
Jeff, we have a limited opportunity to set our priorities for this particular policy forum meeting. But I do assure you that advancing foot care and advancing coverage for diabetic shoes and diabetic foot treatment is actually one of AOPA's standing policy priorities for the year. So are we going to be addressing it as a community when we go to the Hill on Tuesday next week? It's not one of the three main talking points, but you as a podorthist, I assume you're a podorthist, yes?
Yes.
You as a podorthist, if you are going into a meeting with a legislator and this is an issue that's important and specific to you, you should feel free to express that as well as the other talking points that are going to be associated. Now, you'll most likely be with other attendees, so you don't want to take over that conversation. But you're certainly free to individualize and personalize your message. And AOPA works regularly with the APMA on issues like this to improve opportunities for proper foot care. So,
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
that helpful?
Yeah,
Yep.
and to put it in perspective, we've got policy priorities at AOPA that are a dozen strong. To pick and choose two or three to be able to advance in a 15-minute period at the Capitol is challenging. But we hear you, and we certainly can, work on those issues independently as you make those connections and you build your network with us.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Mhm.
All
I
right,
have
who's
a
next?
question. I've got one. Hi, my name's Gary. This is going to be my first time doing anything like this, and I really appreciate the breakdown that y'all gave for the three priorities that we have. And Terry, I know you mentioned it's hard to drill down to even three, but
Yeah.
if I had to choose one to really ingrain myself, and if I get the chance, with my group to pull someone aside, would it be the OMP Patient-Centered Care Act over the funding if I could only choose one?
Oh, that's a really great question. And I think if you are sitting with a legislator that's on a committee of jurisdiction for our bill, that would probably be your priority. If you're sitting with a legislator who has been visited for appropriations ask for the Limb Loss Resource Center or for research funding, then I think if you hone into with whom you are addressing at the moment, that could help gear which is your priority. But of course, all three are very, very important.
Awesome. So perfect. So part of it is just doing your homework, understanding who you're talking to, and if they're more on the funding side of things, hone in on that, and if they're
Yes.
more the policy side of things. All right. Thank you so much.
And
And
Gary,
that's the way to start. That's
yeah.
the way to start. Go
Yes,
ahead, Jeff.
definitely.
And one of the things that we will do as the staff is especially if someone like yourself, this is your first time, if somebody is alone, we will have staff and other folks that are going to be joining folks that are either new to this or by themselves, or very strategically important meetings. We will have AOPA staff accompanying those groups to kind of steer the message. Does that make sense?
Awesome. Yeah, I really
So,
appreciate the
so
support
we'll
between
be
the app
supporting.
and
Yeah, we'll be supporting for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say between the app and this message and all the materials I received via email so far, I do feel really well prepared being a first timer. So thanks for that. Yeah, I'm really excited to join y'all.
Well, thanks for
Wonderful.
the
Thank you,
feedback.
Gary. Yeah,
Yeah, thanks
thank
for the
you. Please
feedback.
reach out directly if you have anything further,
Yeah.
by email.
You even ramped up
Um,
the visuals this meeting too. The last one we were in, you were asked for more visuals, Joe, and yeah, you guys have everything. So that's actually one last question I had. Sorry to bogart all the time, but would y'all please send the deck that you shared after this so I
sure,
can?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
we can certainly send
sure.
Someone
that.
else can go.
So what Joe and Terry said is do your homework to get to know your legislators. Um, I have one that lives in my town. So, and her kids went to the same school as my kids went to. So you can use ChatGPT or any of the other AIs because that will really help you out and zone in on exactly what they do and what they have. And it'll do a lot of your homework for you. So I'd recommend that.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Great
Thank
point.
you.
Great point. Any other questions?
Yep, Terry, there's a couple in the chat. First one in the chat, when will we find out who will be in our group for meetings next week?
Okay, Joe.
So that will that's a good question. So I believe that will be in the app. Ashley's here. She has an answer.
It's in the app,
Shining
guys.
star, Ashley Wyatt.
Brian,
I
it's
have
in
an
the app.
answer for you
Or
all.
check the app.
So you're going to get an email if you're registered for the policy forum. You're going to get an email probably in the next 12 hours. And once you download that email, your schedule is going to automatically populate. So you'll get to see who you're meeting with, what time you're meeting with them, and the background materials. It'll also have some information about the member of Congress so you can learn a little more about who you're going to be meeting with.
Will it have their
And
group as well?
the email's coming
Yes.
tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time. The email will arrive in your inboxes at 1 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow.
And that's what we talked about earlier with the app. That'll all be in there, and I believe it will also list your fellow attendees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so these meetings are being scheduled. They're probably going to move around a little bit. So you may see some things change over the next 72 hours or even more. You might see changes the morning of. That's the beauty of having the app because you'll get that update as quickly as possible. We'll have people working in the background to make sure that you don't go to an office and they look at you and they say, "Oh, well, we rescheduled with you all till." So it'll all be in your app. It'll be pushed out as soon as we know
In real time.
in real time.
Yes, and also on Tuesday morning, we will sit together in designated tables. So you will, if you hadn't already met the individuals in your group the day before during our programming on Monday from 1 to 5, you will be seated with them Tuesday morning at breakfast.
Another
It looks
question.
like
Another
Um,
question from the chat. Should we talk about the proposed 6-month moratorium on durable medical equipment, prosthetics, orthotics during our visits, or should we avoid that in case it's a divisive topic?
So it actually shouldn't be a divisive topic per se, but remember, we're going to Capitol Hill. So what we're asking for is legislative help. This is a policy issue. This is an issue that is being done under existing statutory authority that CMS already has. So if it is brought up, for example, when we talk about the bill and the one of the provisions of the bill is very focused on fraud and abuse, it is perfectly okay to mention and acknowledge the moratorium as a result of perceived fraud and abuse and explain that this provision of the bill is another tool in the toolbox that will prevent unnecessary waste, fraud, and abuse in the Medicare program. So it's not something to be avoided, but at the same time, it's not a real big ask because it's not really a legislative issue that lawmakers on Capitol Hill can really have a whole lot of influence over.
So on Monday, are we meeting for breakfast anywhere, or Monday breakfast is on our own and Tuesday we're having a breakfast?
Correct. Correct. Monday breakfast is on your own. Programming starts, I believe, at 1 p.m. on Monday for the general session. And then Tuesday morning starts with a breakfast that will be provided as part of your registration.
Are we huddling Monday evening for anything or no?
So Monday evening there is an event, a political event for one of the the chairman of the subcommittee on health. But that is a voluntary attendance, including a potential campaign contribution to participate in that.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yep.
You are welcome to network with those who you meet. Monday night, please join us for the PAC event if you are interested in able, and then you are welcome to network with others and enjoy the DC area Monday evening.
Yep. And you'll receive if you haven't already a note before you go with some information about some things in the area as well.
Are you going to send out an email so we can decide on whether we can go to that PAC event on Monday?
So there are some limitations on how we can communicate things like that under federal guidelines. So there will be information available on site, but we cannot send mass communication about political fundraisers. I hope that's enough said on that. We have to be
Y'all
very,
know more
very
than I do, but
careful
is it a
about
mass communication if we're already registered?
soliciting attendance. Let's put it that way.
Looks like Susie has a question.
Yes, I have two quick questions. First of all, Joe, would you repeat the committees of focus? I got
Yes.
Ways and Means. What are the other two?
So there are two in the House. So the two committees of jurisdiction in the House are the Energy and Finance Committee. It's Energy and Finance, specifically the Subcommittee on Health, which is the subcommittee of jurisdiction. And then in the Senate, it's a single committee, and that's the Senate Finance Committee.
And also, does the app have a walking map, or should we just maybe use our Google Maps? I know in the past you tried to group us into meetings that aren't too far from one another, but I'm just thinking time-wise getting from one place to the next.
Yeah. I believe there is some kind of map functionality on the app, but in reality, if you're talking about walking directions, it's probably best to use Google Maps or Apple Maps or something that you have on your phone that's available.
Thank you.
And does everybody know the orientation of I assume too much sometimes, but the way the congressional office buildings are arranged. So if you're looking at the back of the Capitol from the mall, from the National Mall, to your left will be the Senate office buildings, and to your right will be the House office buildings. So the House buildings are on Constitution, I believe, and then the Senate buildings are off of Independence Avenue, which run perpendicular up on either side of the Capitol. But they are all grouped. So all of the House buildings, the three main House buildings are all grouped together, and then the three main Senate buildings are all grouped together. One other thing, it is going to be the first really, really hot day in DC on Tuesday. So just be prepared. It is going to be in the 80s, if not higher, on Tuesday during the day. Good news is there's no prediction of rain. But it will be a warm day, so just be ready for that.
And don't hesitate to get in an Uber or a Lyft or a taxi. There's usually a line of taxi cabs right out in front of these buildings to go from one side to the other, the House side to the Senate side, or vice versa. It's a good walk to get from one side to the other. So give yourselves a break, especially if you've got a time crunch to get from one side to the other.
So I did see in the chat a question about bag restrictions. I mean, unless you're bringing checked size suitcase into the Capitol, into the offices, you should be fine. This is not as tight as airport security. You don't have to take off your shoes. For some reason, my belt always sets off the metal detector, so I just automatically take my belt off, but it's not a requirement per se. Um, we carry tote bags all the time through, and you can consolidate stuff into your bag, so it doesn't have to be clear, it doesn't have to be anything like that. It's not a arms up scan. It's a straight X-ray, or a straight metal detector.
It's a
So
straight metal detector unless something goes off, and then you might have an arms up
yeah. Then they'll wand you.
eval.
Then they'll wand you.
Then they'll
But you
do a
just
wand. And yes,
that
water bottles are fine. Water bottles are fine. But I will tell you, I've had jewelry set certain machines off and shoes. So just be prepared. The less you have with you, the easier it's going to be. And
Yeah.
we will give you a tote bag, and the tote bag will have your leave behind materials. So if you can reduce it to, a small purse or carry item, and then your leave behinds on a water bottle, you'll be better off for that if you can do that.
Will my hip replacement set the machine off?
It
I,
might. It
it
might. But
might.
then they'll use the wand, and you can
Yeah.
tell them courteously and politely that you have a hip implant.
Okay.
Obviously, we have a community who will be setting the machines off. So be prepared for those who are wearing devices, internal or external. Be prepared to go through a wanding. It is not like the airport security, but the metal detectors will go off.
All right. Excellent. All right. I got to get to see patients. Thanks. You guys did a great job. See you on
Oh,
Thank
Monday.
thank
you.
you.
All right. Bye
Thank
Do
you,
we
bye.
have
Dave.
any other questions?
There is one about
One more?
luggage. AOPA will not have a bag storage. You will need to store your bags with the hotel. That will be mentioned a couple times on site, but plan to store your bags with the hotel on Tuesday.
Thank you, Joy. Nikki, did you have a question? Maybe the last question from Nikki.
Well, I had more of a comment than anything. I got to go with another advocacy group that I support in November, and I am a double amputee. And I just want to say that they were very great with being discreet with the wandings. They don't want you to feel uncomfortable. The people at security are very accommodating. They share the most accessible entrances if you go in one that's not as accessible. So, I mean, I'm just hoping that nobody is worried about it. But what worked well for me was just wearing stuff that they can see my devices because that's what we're there for. So I chose to wear skirts. I chose to wear things that showcase what I'm proud of. And I am proud of being a survivor. So I just want to encourage anybody that may have a little apprehension. This is my first time going with AOPA and as an advocate for people who suffer from limb loss and limb loss indifference, but I'm super excited to show them how great we are when we are set up on the right devices. So, I think the proof is going to be in the pudding for us when we making our runs around the hill.
Nikki, thank you. What a beautiful way for us to close out. Really appreciate your contribution and very several aspects of that contribution, showing your medal, sharing your story, and the impact that it has. So thank you. I want to thank all of you for being here, for your commitment to this advocacy work and your commitment to coming and joining us for the Policy Forum this year. We are all here together to educate and advocate with purpose. And the purpose is to increase access to care for individuals living with limb loss and limb difference. So please enjoy getting yourself set up, prepared logistically, and also emotionally, getting your hearts and your minds prepared for this good work that we do and that we will do together next week. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you at the Policy Forum next week.
See everybody on Monday. Excited for it.
Thank you so much, y'all. We'll see you there.